I thought we could do this one differently since I don't have anything cool to draw on the board and I don't have any research to show you on a screen share. I'm just going to be telling you a little bit of a story and offering a caution to the ideal that I hear a lot in this world, which is that people want to do things naturally. Now, as you know, I'm a doctor of chiropractic and a nutritional therapy practitioner, so I very much prefer to do things naturally. I've seen many people with side effects or complications from medications, particularly prescription medications. So I take this very seriously, the job of this video, and I don't want to persuade you against the use of natural compounds in your journey. But there are two things that I'd like to communicate here with you. Number one is that natural doesn't always mean safe. Right? Like you could overdose on any number of natural compounds. If you take an entire bottle of ADP, oil of oregano, I guarantee you will not feel good and you're probably going to decimate your microbiome in the process. So keep that in mind, is that natural does not translate to safe or even safer than prescriptions. And I think that is oftentimes one of the messages that is promoted in my field. But there's another layer that I want to approach as well, and this is where the story comes in. So it's actually a story within a story. So I was meeting with a private patient recently, and she had brought this up once or twice in our work together, but she hadn't yet been ready to address it. She shared with me that she was thinking of restarting an anti-anxiety medication. And this was a big deal for her. She wanted to do things naturally. But she also had told me previously that she felt the best in her entire life during the periods when she was on a medication for anxiety. And in our work together, we were having a bit of a stuck point, perhaps because of anxiety and food fear and like OCD-ish type stuff that kept popping up, and it was holding her back in a lot of ways. So we talked about it for the duration of that appointment, and I encouraged her to work with her provider and entertain the thought of getting back on that medication if it made her feel good in the past. But one of the things that I told her was my own story with this sort of like mindset stuff and where one of the shifts came for me. So the story within the story is I will tell you the story that I told her, which is my birth story. So a lot of you guys know I have a daughter. She was born in 2015, and my birth story my birth was rough. I went into it a little bit cocky, honestly. I was like, I'm drinking my hippy dippy tea and I'm getting adjusted and I'm pretty good with nutrition and movement. I was practicing my deep squats. I'm a big lady. Like I'm 6 feet tall and about 190 pounds. I've got birthing hips. I thought I have it made in the shade. Boy, was I wrong. It was so hard, you guys. And it was so long. And I went into the birth, A, a little bit cocky, thinking, I got this. But B, I was absolutely dead set on the notion of doing it naturally. And I felt a pressure because of my profession even. Like, what would my colleagues think of me? What would my fellow chiropractors think of me if I had an epidural or, God forbid, a C-section? Right? So I went into this really dead set that I was not having any assistance. It was going to be au naturel. Well, it sucked way more than I thought it would. And I knew it was going to suck, but it was so awful and so painful. And my husband still to this day will tell you that I was mentally not there. I was either in excruciating, agonizing pain from the contractions, or I was in excruciating mental pain because I was terrified of the next contraction. And so the cycle went for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I will tell you, eventually I did get an epidural, and it was the absolute best decision of my entire life. Hands down. The only regret I have about the birth of my daughter is that I didn't allow myself to get the epidural sooner. Realistically, having all my faculties back now, I think I probably made myself suffer for at least 6, if not 8 or 10 hours longer than I really needed to. And what ended up happening with me is that by the time I got the epidural, I was so physically and mentally spent that then when it came time for pushing a little while later, I was just depleted. I was exhausted. And so I was trying to push and it was not enough. Like I was having a really hard time pushing. So I ended up pushing for 5 hours. And I did get her out vaginally, but barely by the skin of my teeth. No exaggeration. We were in the operating room and the surgeon was ready to go. Everybody was scrubbed in and we got her out on a Hail Mary, last push, last hurrah push. I think that probably had I allowed myself to get the epidural and get some relief earlier on and get a little bit of rest even, I probably wouldn't have been so mentally and physically spent, and I could have pushed harder and I would have gotten her out vaginally much quicker and I wouldn't have been on the brink of a C-section. But, you don't know at the time, and I was younger and younger clinically, younger chronologically, obviously. And again, I thought it was the best thing for me and my baby to do it naturally, and that's all there was to it. And there was not really a lot of nuance to that conversation in my mind at that time. So going back over to my patient who was grappling with the idea of getting back on a prescription for anxiety. What I was telling her is that I think sometimes it is the smart thing to do. And furthermore, sometimes I think it's the compassionate thing to do to allow yourself to use the tools at your disposal. And yes, that includes prescriptions. I've never really resonated with the sect of the integrative holistic space that says drugs and surgery are intrinsically always bad and evil. You can't look me in the face and tell me to not take a prescription antibiotic if I get Lyme disease. There are just some things that you can't lick with lavender essential oil, guys. I'm just sorry. There's absolutely a time and place for this. You're not going to tell a type 1 diabetic to not take prescription insulin and take a berberine supplement instead. Could the berberine supplement help that person? Totally. But do they also need to be mindful of medication management and work with their prescriber to keep them safe? Yes. There's a time and a place for both. So anyway, I just wanted to share that I think sometimes this comes up and there's this really black and white mentality. Conventional medicine saying drugs and surgery are great and they never have problems and everybody should do them. And then the chiropractic, naturopathic, holistic kind of world saying drugs and surgery are evil and terrible and always universally horrible. And once again, for the umpteenth time, I'm stuck in the middle saying, hey, there's a time and a place for everything. We shouldn't overuse prescriptions and over-the-counter drugs, and we should absolutely do things with nutrition and movement and lifestyle first when that is available to us. But also there's a time and a place where prescriptions and even surgeries make a hell of a lot of sense, and we need to stop judging ourselves and judging others when we choose to use one or the other. So if you have been on the fence about whether or not to take a medicine or discontinue a medicine or have a surgery or do something in the conventional medical space and you feel like you've been a bit brainwashed by the forums and the internet at large, I'm here to tell you, think about it rationally and give yourself a heaping dose of self-compassion and see if you can come to a reasonable conclusion after you do both of those things. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.